Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you are joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And really glad to be prepared for whatever it is that comes. We get that from Earl Eues, Terrebonne Parish Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Welcome back to the show, Earl.
Hey, Keith, good to be here this evening.
Thank you
Thanks for
very
having
much.
me.
Absolutely. And so as we think about all the things that we do day to day, one of those things is thinking about what's happening with COVID. And now here we're seeing another rise in our percent positive.
Yeah, we're seeing an increase in the number of cases. Our percent positivity has went up from 5.7 to 9.5 just this past week. We're seeing, everybody's getting out, everybody's being around each other. So we are seeing some increase in some of the cases. But, we've been in touch with the Louisiana Department of Health. They pretty much, the deaths have stayed significantly lower than what they were the last couple of years. And also the number of hospitalizations are way down.
Right.
In fact, this past week, we don't have any in Terrebonne. But, there are some cases in the hospital where if you have some comorbidities, people are still being admitted into ICU and may be placed on a vent.
Yeah, and those are people that are even, vaccinated. And so that's one of those things where, the booster comes into question here where we've been vaccinated. We knew that down the road we would need a booster. You and I were able to get our first booster. And now at 10%, I'd like to know your thoughts. Director.
Yeah, well, typically when we were full speed COVID operations, the last couple of years, I'd start getting a little nervous when the numbers climbed up close to 10%. So now that we're at 9.5%, I'm going to go get my third. Well, I guess it'll be our second booster.
Second booster, so
Yeah,
fourth
so you had
of the vaccination
2 shots,
process.
a first booster and a second booster. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it. And I would urge people that have some comorbidities or immunosuppressant type issues that they may consider getting that second booster due to the rise in the percent positivity.
Well, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go and get mine as well. My sister, who works in healthcare, just got her second booster. And so I'm going to get mine. I think my parents are going to probably want to do the same.
Yeah, also, we've talked about this on a number of past shows. Is more and more people are taking home tests to determine whether or not they're positive or negative. So the case numbers are probably a little higher than what we've been seeing because those home tests are not reported to the Department of Health.
Right.
So our positivity may be even a little higher than what's reported.
Right. And people get those tests sent to them. So, a lot of people had those or they buy them. And so we have several. We have several that we use. My wife and I have both tested ourselves at home several times. Just, cold-like, flu-like symptoms.
Right.
Just got to make sure that you check in to make sure that, make sure you're not COVID positive and, spend your 5 days. But, of course, we don't have other comorbidities and we're not immunocompromised. But for those people that are, you take your test, and like you said, that number is probably significantly higher.
Yeah, and we're averaging probably about in between 6 or 7 people a day on the reinfection numbers. In other words, they've had COVID before, and they've gotten it again. So we're seeing those numbers. And, like I said, our case numbers are going up also. But, we're out doing more and more things now.
Graduations.
Yeah.
And boy, let me tell you, and just talking with some of the principals in the area, it's a nice thing to do and have. But at the same time, those are all without masks. With graduation, they're certainly without social distancing. You get your family there excited about your graduation.
Exactly. So we still trying to tell people to if you can social distance. If you wash your hands, use your hand sanitizer, do the things you were doing before. If you are not feeling well or if you're sick, wear a mask.
Yeah. Or stay at home.
Yeah. That's correct.
I brought the masks back out. So I've got my whole array of masks everywhere. My backpacks, my car, my house before I leave leave the house in the morning, and I have them with me now. And I'm just masking more. I've seen some people in grocery stores, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to follow the recommendations and just if I'm gonna be around people, I'm gonna have my mask on.
Yeah, and you know, I've noticed I've become a little laxed on this, but you know, washing your hands all the time. I mean, we were so much in tune to after you shook somebody's hands or you know touch some surfaces, you'd hurry up and go wash your hands. And I notice I'm a little laxed on that now, but now that the percentage, the percentages up there, yeah. So little hand sanitizer here, but it's just you know some ways to have some precautions.
Yep.
It's just the numbers are climbing up. But like I said, the Department of Health is not getting too excited.
Right.
Basically because the virus that's out there right now is not as virulent as the previous virus that they had out with I forgot what we call those subsequent viruses.
After Omicron, right? I've had trouble keeping
I
up.
know. I mean, you know, we went through all these Omicrons and everything else. So,
Right.
but it's not as virulent, and we're not seeing as you know the deaths and the number of hospitalizations that we've seen in the past.
So the numbers are going up. It's still not necessarily bad news, but good news is we can still take all the precautions that we need to. We can get our vaccination. We can get boosted.
Right.
So those are the things that we can actually do to make a difference. Because June 1st is hurricane season, and people are really starting to get a little anxious.
Yeah, so it's that time of the year again. But you know, it comes around every 6 months. You know, after hurricane season ends in November. But June 1st will be the start of the 2022 hurricane season, and the National Hurricane Center has put out what their predictions are for this year. So you know, right now they're saying there'll be between 14 and 21 named storms. That includes you know all your tropical storms.
Right.
Also, 6 to 10 hurricanes and 3 to 6 major hurricanes.
Which is category 3 or
Which
better.
is that's correct, category 3 or higher. And so the 65% chance of the season being above normal, which it has been the last few years. And they also have like a 70% confidence level that we'll reach these numbers. Just want to remind everybody that even though you know we talk about these numbers, that does not mean that there'll be landfalling hurricanes
correct.
or named storms. It's just a prediction of what they think the weather patterns will be, and there's no prediction on where these storms will make landfall, even if they do make landfall.
Yeah, and like you said, about 4 weeks ago, there was this information that came out that there may be a storm at the end of May, and that was 4 weeks ago. And here we are at the end of May, and there's nothing in the Gulf or that identify and in the Atlantic coming that says that there's something that's going to be brewing right now.
That is correct, and you know, people talk about it's a model. It's called the GFS.
Right.
And over the last few weeks, everybody's been saying, "Hey, the GFS is showing something developing in the Gulf." The Gulf is very large. Okay, you know, so it's a matter of where it develops in the Gulf. They did have a little low pressure system develop off the coast of Alabama and Florida this past week, but it wasn't a tropical system. It was a low pressure system that basically just moved onshore. You know, when they start predicting these things 4 weeks out, they're not very accurate. It's just a model.
Right.
It's one model
Right.
out of
One
many.
of many. Yeah, because
Okay.
there's like 8 to 10 different models,
There's
right?
quite a few models.
Okay.
And it causes a lot of anxiety for people, especially in our area right now, due to a lot of our homes are still not repaired, and we have a tremendous number of residents living in temporary housing, such as travel trailers and mobile home units. So I just caution people to make sure they're getting their information from a reliable source,
Such as HTV.
such as HTV. You know, I tell a lot of people to keep up with the National Hurricane Center. As soon as they know something's going to happen, they'll start putting out advisories in advance, and they do a daily tropical outlook that people can go look at online and see what may be developing way off toward the coast of Africa. You know, so there's other information sources you can take a look at.
Well, and you mentioned those things. It reminds me of the daily updates that we get just through the app here in Sherburne Parish. and how accurate that is about what we need to be prepared for. Possible flooding, possible storm system, updates on COVID. So it's a wonderful system to
Yeah.
let us know.
So if you haven't done so yet, download. We have a new app for the Office of Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness. It's a smartphone app. Works on iPhones or Android systems. As the National Weather Service pushes out alerts, such as flood advisories or flood watches and flood warnings, you will get those on your phone, and it'll pop up as like a little banner, letting you know that you have some information regarding some type of incident in Terrebonne Parish. We use it for all of our emergency incidents.
Right.
So during hurricane season, when we start pushing out evacuation notices and important information for the public, you'll get these across this phone app.
Right. And they'll get it here because we're going to have Earl on to talk with you about what is happening and what you can expect in your area. And we get our information from Earl. He gets it through the National Hurricane Center. And speaking of, we're looking at the option for one of the representatives to come back down and meet with us again.
That's correct. Lauren Nash, who is the National Weather Service out of New Orleans, she's the warning coordinator, is
Right.
her official title. We're going to try to have her on HTV, and she will talk about the upcoming hurricane season.
Right. And she can articulate that a little bit differently in as much as what they're seeing internally and how they come up with some of these numbers and their recommendations.
That is correct, and we're seeing a lot more named storms and a lot more systems, and I think some of that is due to the technology that we have now. We have more satellites circling the planet now than we've ever had before, and better satellites from the National Weather Service. They're able to see these systems a lot sooner than what we used to see even 10 years ago.
Right.
So, and they've done a great job of predicting where that landfall is.
Right. Right.
So they're getting better and better with the technology that's available.
Especially once they get near the Gulf, we get a little better idea about that. And so you've mentioned it. We're going to leave a little teaser here, and you mentioned named storms and the number of named storms, but the question becomes, what is in a name? People like to know the named storms, and thank God we stayed with names. And we got away from the Greek alphabet. Boy, that was tough.
Well, it was confusing to people.
Sure, because we had so many of them.
Well, and the Greek alphabet doesn't go A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Right,
It's kind of skips. So
yeah. Exactly. Speaking of skipping, we may want to skip some of these name storms. Roll through the names if you don't mind, and we'll put a little asterisk by 5 and 13. But start with the name storms that we may have this year.
So we have the first name storm will be called Alex. Then we have Bonnie. Colin, Danielle. The fifth name storm will be Earl. We'll come back to that one.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. What's in the name?
Fiona, Gaston, Hermine, Ian, Julia, Carl, Lisa, and then the 13th will be Martin.
Uh-oh.
So we're going to skip over that one too.
Yeah. We're coming back. Put an asterisk by it.
Nicole, Owen, Paula, Richard, Shari, Tobias, Virginie.
Yeah,
it's Virginie.
Virginie. Meet Virginie.
Yeah.
Boom,
and
boom.
then Walter. So,
all right. we finished with Walter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that's 21 names. Now they predict anywhere between 14 and 21. So
Right.
those are 21 names.
That's 21.
And so if we exceed that, we go into the new naming system that the National Hurricane Center has put into place. It is no longer the Greek alphabet.
Right.
It's a set standard of names.
And we'll start with A again.
That's correct.
Yeah. And so the interesting thing is Alex and Bonnie, 1 and 2, and Alex is so close to Alec that my 2 adjoining neighbors directly behind me, directly next door to me, were Alec and Bonnie. I am hoping that neither of those storms become difficult and want to come to my house, as the 2 of them did for many, many years. So I'm hoping not, but I'm hoping that if we get named storms, they spend their time. Not that I want other people to have to deal with storms or name storms, but I'm hoping they're all tropical storms, and that we spend a lot of time talking about them not doing much damage. That's what I would like. Yeah. But let's talk about this number 5. If we were to get a Hurricane Earl, I have my idea about what the prediction might be for it. What do you think would happen for
I
Hurricane
think
Earl?
Hurricane Earl would cause a lot of excitement and then just fizzle out. That's what I think would happen.
We get a lot of people very well prepared, right?
And I hope that's what would happen if we get to the letter E. So
Knowing Earl in Hurricane Earl, my prediction would be that Hurricane Earl would become a Category 1 because he's number 1 when it comes to emergency preparedness. It will come into the Gulf with the prediction of coming right towards us and then make a decision that he's tired of working and tired of spending time in the Gulf, take a hard right turn, go towards the coast, hang out on the beach in Florida for a little while, then become just a small system that doesn't cause much rain and go straight to Disney World.
yeah, as long as it doesn't cause any damage.
Right. So that's the key, right?
Yeah. So
When-
what you don't want is your name storm to be very costly, like in the billions of dollars of damage, because then they retire your name.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You never want your name retired for that.
That's correct. That's correct.
However, if we were to get to the 13th named storm, now people already assume that number 13 has got a little bad luck associated
That's
with
correct.
it. And for any of us that know Martin here at HTV with Martin False, we know that he'll be on the desk calling out his own name.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
He'll have to because that's where he spends his time and energy.
Yeah.
But where do you think, if it were to be a name storm Martin, what it would do and where it would go?
I think I'm hoping to do the same thing I do, cause a lot of excitement and just fizzle out.
Right.
Because Martin does, he does a great job on the desk when there's
My
a hurricane.
goodness.
He's pretty passionate about getting that information out and doing everything. But it wouldn't hurt my feelings if he didn't stay on the desk too long.
I would love for him to have to come and report and start reporting and have to leave and go home. That's
like-
exactly, without anybody else having to come on.
Yeah,
It
kind
would
of
be
like
all him.
Hurricane Marco last year.
That's
kinda
exactly right.
Skirted the coast, made some noise, and then fizzled out.
We're going to chill out. We're going to ride the coast a little bit. We would love for Hurricane or Storm Martin, whatever name storm it is, to be just that, to be something we're aware of. We know how important it is, but we want it to not cause much damage.
Yeah, and I like telling people the names of the storms when we do presentations because people like to hear their name if they, if there's people like to joke about, if there's a hurricane, Sue or, Lisa, Carl or whatever. And if I usually try to find somebody in the group that may be listed in the names. And
Yeah.
so when I get to that name and say, oh, and we have a Hurricane Carl, I think it's going to be a bad one.
Oh, I can almost guarantee it. And it's going to Texas, by the way, which is where our Hurricane Carl is. He's over in Texas. And so if it comes, that's where it's going.
Yeah.
Hurricane Carl.
But, the numbers are there.
Right.
These are predictions like
Right.
everything else. But, if we're going to have an above average hurricane season, then you need to start preparing in the event.
Prepare now. Right.
As June 1st is the start of hurricane season. So prepare now in the event that we have to call for some evacuations.
I guess the really good news, Earl, is that there is a huge increase in the number of new roofs on, much more secure than maybe they were years ago in our area. And so the good news for that.
Yeah, but we still have a lot of blue roofs.
Yes, we do.
And
Yes, we do.
So it's and we can talk about that in another segment in relation to what we need to do to prepare for the hurricanes.
And we'll keep talking about it as we approach June 1st. He is Earl Eues. I am Keith Weissheit. Thank you for joining us. However you may have been joining us, we appreciate it. This will do it for this edition of Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere. Love more local programming here on HTV.